Today's podcast is brought to you by a company who we have been using for years and takes up significant shelf space inside of our own kitchen. Biosteel Sports Nutrition.
It was a product created out of necessity 8 years ago and is trusted by athletes like Connor McDavid, Tyler Seguin, Brooke Henderson, Rosie MacLennan, and Andrew Wiggins.
They're really a leader in sports drinks for everyone from professional athletes to everyday champions.
Understand something, guys. Nothing worth ever having in this world comes easy.
Do what these champions doing if you're going to be a champion.
You control your outcome.
Who am I?
I'm a champion.
What up, champions, and welcome back to a brand new Biosteel breakdown. As always, I'm your host, Adrian, with my co-host,
Sylvie.
I need to figure out a new thing to do to send it back over to you. I feel like a news anchor here. But we're back for a brand new episode. And if it's your first time, welcome. And if you're a long-time listener, then thank you for your loyalty. We're stoked. We got a great episode for you. As always, please share these out. Let people know if you like them. Push them out to your community and say, hey, this is something that I think would be valuable for you. And today's especially, I think a lot of people are struggling with and don't even know.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I'm going to start by my personal example of brain fog.
Go. And then I'll go.
Because that's what we're going over, brain fog. So when I was working in the corporate industry, I was running a gym downtown, and I essentially was working 12-hour days and was very tired all the time. And in the afternoon, every afternoon, I would experience a needing to go out and get coffee and banana bread from Starbucks.
That's so specific.
Because I remember it. And so I was, I couldn't focus. I couldn't concentrate on the task that I was doing. I essentially had this 2 to 3 hour window where I was like pretty useless in terms of productivity. Hence why I had to pull off these 12-hour days to get all my work done, because I just had these waves of brain fog. And at the time I had no idea what it was. I knew that there were a lot of lifestyle factors that I needed to change up, but yeah, this was something that I experienced for a while, and it did break me down in a lot of ways. So that's my example. I know you have a very specific example, and we've talked about it before, but
yeah, when I was first diagnosed with Graves, my thyroid condition, it was like being hungover minus the like nausea all the time. So I would barely go to sleep, but when I would wake up, it would just be hazy. Like every decision I made was like slow and painful, and I couldn't focus. It would take me so long to do any kind of task. Like to write a 1-page paper on my computer would be a 3-hour task, and I would just read the same line over and over again. And it was just a terrible experience.
Right.
And so we didn't really, at least I had never really thought about it that much until this happened. And then I realized that people are living in this state all the time. And you might be watching or listening to this and thinking that is me. Like every day for 2 or 3 hours, I'm useless, or it seems hazy, or I feel like I can't even do anything until I down my entire 12-cup pot of coffee.
And all the sugar.
And so it's a debilitating feeling. It really is.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I would describe it as the opposite of feeling good. So you don't feel calm, you can't be level-headed, you're unmotivated, not inspired, and some of the main symptoms, like we chatted about, are fatigue, you're distracted, like super irritable, very moody, and you just feel plain off. So, and again, it can show up differently in everyone. But yeah, those are some of the main ones. Headaches as well can show up when you have severe brain fog. So the symptoms can arise from a lot of different issues. Like I said, it is an individual thing. For myself, it was definitely lifestyle based. So I was, like I said, not eating properly at the time. I had increased inflammation, gut health issues, which there's a huge gut health or gut brain connection. So that was a huge part for me. For you, hormone imbalance. So thyroid issues was one of the main contributors. Stress and food intolerances too. So some of the most common food intolerances that can lead to brain fog are gluten and dairy. So those have been linked. And so there are several ways that we can sort of help to get over brain fog, but again, it is an individual thing. So you have to kind of see what makes most sense based on, these treatments and what you might need to balance out in your life. So Number one, and we've chatted about this several times, cannot stress it enough, is proper sleep. So of course you're going to be fatigued. Of course you're going to be irritable. Anyone who has slept maybe 2-3 hours a night knows that the next day they are completely off. And this might be a reality every single night. So it is something that, must be prioritized. We've gone over sleep routines. We've gone over, some supplementation that can help, diet implications when it comes to sleep, but make sure you prioritize sleep, because it's when our whole hormonal system resets, it regenerates. If this doesn't happen, it's going to lead to fogginess the next day. Our brain is obviously the organ that we're talking about right now, but it's going to affect our whole body regeneration if we don't sleep. So number one is sleep. Number two is balancing hormones. So I'm going to talk about three in particular that of our hormones that can be very out of whack when it comes to brain fog. So the first one is cortisol. So it's known as our stress hormone. It's given a really bad rep because, we've talked about even belly fat and all these negative things that can happen when we have too much cortisol. But we do need it. It's a natural stress response. But if we have too much of it, we can actually have that feeling of wired and tired. So we're wired all the time, but we're also tired. So this is classic brain fatigue. So you want to make sure that stress is obviously balanced. We'll get to that. Serotonin as well. So serotonin, is very important for our hormone regulation in general. And then dopamine is the next one, which is our happy hormone. So those three, if they're out of whack, you can experience some major symptoms when it comes to brain fog. So you're just not feeling yourself, less concentrated. Like serotonin's related to being calm, motivated, inspired. And dopamine is that rush of happiness that you can get. So if those are out of whack, then we have a lot of issues when it comes to our brain health. Carbohydrate, sugar intake. So this is an interesting one, because a lot of the time, when we think about carbohydrates, it can be the processed ones. It is important to include some complex carbohydrates. So carbohydrates that are, slow releasing in our system, because if we're too low in carbohydrates, it will actually affect our serotonin. So people who go too low carb sometimes can be really angry people, due to the fact that their serotonin levels are low. So we have to take this into consideration. I'm talking about the banana bread. I'm talking about the bread or the processed carbohydrates. So everything that's, again, white and processed, you want to sort of eliminate from your diet as much as possible. Adequate protein. So amino acids, which are the breakdown of proteins, build up to make our proteins. They are a lot of hormone precursors. So it's incredibly important to eat protein. You'll also be more full throughout the day. So for instance, if you have a really heavy carbohydrate lunch and not enough protein, you probably will be, hungry in a couple hours and reaching for things like banana bread. Healthy fats. So our brain is made up of 60% fat. So it's incredibly important. You've heard before, essential fatty acids are incredibly important for, our mood. And they also help to decrease inflammation, which is a leading cause of brain fog. So when we're really inflammatory, it can cause, again, our brains to be really foggy, especially in that afternoon. So things like wild fish, nuts and seeds, just making sure that you're getting a variety of healthy fats in your diet. And like we've talked about with the checklist, protein, healthy fats, fiber, and color are your priority to avoid feeling this way. Stress management. So as I mentioned earlier, balancing hormones. So stress management is huge because, like I said, if you're stressed all the time, it can lead to this fogginess that you're experiencing and these negative symptoms. So some ways to manage your stress. We've talked about it on this before: deep breathing, meditation, journaling, exercise, being in nature. The right type of exercise. So we know that exercise is important, but a lot of the time when I do see some severe brain fog issues is when people are actually doing too much and they're not giving themselves rest. So it goes hand in hand with sleep and how our hormonal system needs to reset. You've heard it before when it comes to athletes with overtraining. So they're doing too much, that their hormonal system is actually really unregulated, and they experience things of like less motivation, uninspired. So this happens to us as well if we're not doing the right type of exercise. So if we're doing like crazy HIIT workouts every day and we're feeling fatigued all the time and foggy in the afternoon, this could actually be a negative thing. So a too much of a cortisol release. And then number The last one that you want to consider are food intolerances. So I mentioned gluten and dairy. So it can be that there's certain foods that are causing fogginess, and there's a specific immune response that you might be getting from these particular foods that is just causing this extra inflammation in your system. So like I said, gluten and dairy, but it can show up in a lot of different foods. There are tests for this, which if you're really concerned and you've tried all these other lifestyle factors and you're still experiencing a lot of brain fog symptoms, I do recommend to, check food intolerances, and then through testing, and then also checking hormonal. So, similar to you with your thyroid, also adrenal issues can show up when it comes to brain fog. So try all the lifestyle factors first, and then, like I said, maybe go to that next step if you're still experiencing the fogginess.
Awesome. Guys, I know that was a lot, so we're going to have an article, a link down below with an article as well, so you can go through at your own pace, kind of check them off, see if this pertains to you, see if it doesn't. You can come back, listen to it again. But I do think there's probably a lot of people out there listening to this who it resonates with. And so we hope it was helpful. We hope you enjoyed it. Please share it out if there's someone else in your life that you think it would be valuable for. As always, head over to biosteel.com, use the code word
Champ Lifestyle.
Capital C, capital L, and you can get 15% off your very next order. And they've got some awesome products to help keep you full and fight brain fog. And so we'll see you next week, guys. Take care.